On Signature Business, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has reiterated its warnings to Nigerians about the dangers of Ponzi schemes following the collapse of digital investment platform Crypto Bank Exchange, CBEX, which has reportedly defrauded investors of over 1.3 trillion naira. And so, Signature Business this evening, post-mortem of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria is the center, the focal of our discussion this evening with Anitche Ndudim Rowland. He's an ex-banker, financial analyst, and CEO, Rugon Capital Limited. It sounded like a coin stuff. Is that what you should be scared of? You're welcome to Signature.
Thank you very much.
Good
evening.
What trends have you observed regarding the rise and fall of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria over the past few years? And just before you joined us during our preambles, Quinsley here was sharing with me about a particular Ponzi scheme that failed in 2016, thereabout, MMM.
Yeah.
So, but what are the trends? You have been in this sector, in financial sector, for decades, and so there must be some trends. There must be, it starts in a certain way. Let's just hear it from you.
Okay, let me just take you a history of Ponzi schemes. The popular one is tulip mania that occurred in the 17th century, way back in Holland, where somebody picked a flower, made a myth around it, created a financial product out of it and started selling, and people were rushing it that could cure illnesses, so many things around it, and the price for it kept on rising and rising. So everybody is selling and selling and selling. The price keeps rising, and when it gets to the top, nobody is buying it again. The thing collapses. So it's more or less like you're creating a pyramid out of nothing. There's nothing underneath. There's no base. And so when it keeps rising and rising,
why do Ponzi schemes continue to thrive in Nigeria despite the public warnings against it?
Okay.
I think Ndudi was still on the train.
The train.
So that's what happens, and so they create a marketing scheme out of it, create an attention that it's something like an investment, so people look towards it. Then the other trend, which is common amongst all, they promise fantastic interest rates above normal. Normally, when you hear somebody offering schemes like this, they offer 30 to 50% per month. That's where.
So if it is too good to be true, then
too good to be true. 30% interest per month, and when you multiply by 12, annual interest is annually. So 30% times 12, that's 120. So you could see how possible is this? Apart from maybe drugs, that's narcotics that gives so much profits. It's very rare to
any financial investment
exactly to give you with that kind
promise, return on investment.
It's too good to be too good to be true. Too good to be true.
Is there a recent one apart from CBEX?
Okay. Like you mentioned, the MMM 2016. While I was in the industry, 2008, between 2006 to 2008, there was one Nospecto. People were paying.
Nigeria?
Yeah, Nigeria. It was a firm. Around they were into oil and gas, so many things. So Nigerians were pouring in monies into the company's accounts, and they were giving fantastic returns. So from 2007 to 2008, you could see over time they've gained, let's say, credibility before the public. That's people have paid in and they're returning. So 2 years or over a year. So people like, wow, this is too good to be true. So they generated so much funds and it became a problem to the banks. So the owners of banks reported the scene to Securities and Exchange Commission, and it was clamped down.
So this was clamped down. It's not like it collapsed.
No, it didn't collapse. It was clamped down
okay.
by Securities and Exchange Commission and CBN. Normally,
funds returned to the owners?
I doubt. I can't really say. I can't remember what actually happened, but it was shut down. But then it's even a risk. So even if it's shut down, this the possibility of recovering your money is very slim, very, very slim. Most times, the people behind these investments would have cashed out a long time ago.
Okay.
So leaving every other person to his fate. So it's a big problem, and you could have Ponzi schemes in terms of investments. If you could also see it is more right now in crypto. Very rare. Currently, you have over 17,000 crypto assets. About 10,000 are active, and out of that 10,000, you just have less than 1% that has a problem it is solving. Yes. And so there's a bigger bubble in the crypto market that is yet to blow out, which will blow out soon. And so those who are investing in crypto assets have to be very wary, know the investments or coins they are buying, and ensure that it has a use case. When I say use case, it solves a problem. You know, I've explained digital assets or blockchain. There are payment channels. Payment channels to solve a problem of remittances and for financial institutions. So I see people rushing into crypto without actually knowing what they are into, because they just want to turn money.
I mean, because there's profits in crypto.
Profit is there. And the underlying aspect is what you call animal spirits by John Maynard Keynes. When I say animal spirits, people tend to take decisions based on what they feel. Many a times is being driven by greed. So we just have to be very contented with what you have. Yes, I know there are underlying pressures, economic pressures that push people into it to make ends meet, but ends never meet. So we just have to be very, very careful. Then even people going into such investments should ask questions. You have financial advisors that can advise you. It should come with a fee.
But
you know, in this,
it's not free.
It's not free. But you know, in this part of the world, people tend to think they are very good with their investments. And like they say, like my mother used to tell me, you don't tell a man how to spend his money or how to invest his money. Funny enough, I've even seen close relatives of mine, very, very close relatives of mine, dabble into it. Yes. If I went MMM was raining, somebody told me, if I had the money, I would have done it. I said, oh, even you? Yes. That was even MMM, but I know it crashed in 2016, December. By September,
the following year?
No, the 3 months before.
Okay.
I explained in detail what it was all about.
In the
public gathering, not in the public forum, somewhere in New Haven, and they looked at some of you spoke well and you're right, but we just need to do it to get the money. It's okay, no problem. In December, early December, they jacked the interest rate. Very fantastic rate.
More people invest.
Oh, everybody went into it. 21st December, the whole site shut down. I'm like, oh, they were like saying, oh, by February it will come up. I said, okay, I wish you the best, and it never came back. So it's a big problem. So everybody, just like what Nigerians are going through now, it's always a circle where, in the midst of economic hardship, depression, no more jobs, there's always that pressure to make extra money
to survive. Basically, you were saying.
I was asking. I mean, even when we have these warnings out there, security agencies, financial agents warn about it, people still dive into.
Yes, that's why you can't stop me from taking because it's a buyer's beware, and there are warnings, but I'm not in your pocket. Like one of my bosses will say, everybody builds a fence right around his money. So because you fenced your money, I don't know when you're going to take a decision. I'll not be there. Mind you, when you were going for that transaction, you didn't inform me or the SEC. And so if anything happens, you're your own. But what the Securities and Exchange, or the regulatory commissions will do, SEC, they warn. Many times they can't just go on their own, so there has to be concrete evidence with enough evidence for them to act.
We will get to this point, but are there some set of people who are typical victims of Ponzi schemes? I have never been involved. I've never tried, let alone losing money. I can't even survive it in fact.
Okay, you see, there are two kinds of people that are risk takers and risk averse. Maybe you might find somebody in between. Very careful. So maybe you're risk averse. You're okay. Then you also have the risk takers. I bet you a lot of people that were affected in MMM
were also affected in CBET.
Exactly.
Possibly.
Exactly. So it's a vicious cycle. It comes over and over again. It also happened in America. Sam Bankman-Fried. Same also with a crypto exchange that went bust. Even as well funded as Securities and Exchange Commission in the US, they had interactions with Sam Bankman-Fried, yet it went bust. So you see, issues like this, things like this come up, and maybe in every new sector, there are always bad players. It's a circle. For every new sector, they tend to find bad players around it. And when they go bust, the regulatory authorities come in, use it as an example to ensure discipline and regulate it properly. Many a times, we could say maybe, why are they not forestalling such an incident?
Exactly.
Many a times, the regulatory authorities are not abreast of new innovations like this, just like blockchain and crypto, and the modalities or the technical details around it. They are yet to hire experts or people versed in that sector. So it takes a lot of time, MDAs, they don't move at a fast speed, more or less like government agencies. They take their time. They are not all the time they are proactive. It's until something goes bad, they now tend to walk around it like, it's okay, this has happened. What are the lessons to be learned? Then they can now get the right staff, the right technical, the machinery to properly look at it, create laws or processes around it for the legitimate people to go into such business and regulate it properly.
Still on the government's seeming nonchalance towards this. That's what I would call it, because it keeps repeating itself. You said it's a vicious cycle. It keeps coming around. In fact, the very first time I will be in on that kind of information was the MMM. And I just came into Enugu and I heard about that. It was all over the country, but it was at the time that it collapsed that I came to Enugu. And then I heard that something similar has happened. My point here is that it is both local and foreign. We have Nigerians who are using the same kind of scheme to defraud Nigerians. So are you saying that government cannot really be proactive, put some things in check as measures to even make it impossible for such schemes to start up, not talking about thriving now?
Okay. When
you are done with that, we're going to talk about the part B of this.
I get your point. You see, okay. Securities and Exchange Commission, maybe they are in Lagos and maybe they have an office in Abuja. Funny enough, after the MMM collapsed. There was another one that came up in Enugu here. Let's partner with you.
Yes.
Exactly.
It was
Just
a Ponzi scheme.
it was a Ponzi scheme. Let's partner.
Another one
It was a local one.
Color.
Yeah.
It was a local.
It was a Ponzi scheme.
It was a local one.
Money.
Okay, you see, you also have even, there was even, I think a pastor of a church, well informed, well respected. He also had his own scheme. It was very popular in Enugu here, and they took funds from his members, promised here and there, and it became, you know, it might not just be, there are so many issues, there are so many formats you can use in raising a Ponzi scheme. It's also known as pyramiding.
Okay.
You take money from
And
me,
give to someone else.
I promise you 30%. I've already gone with the money, so I now wait for you to introduce another person.
Yeah. So you can get your own 30.
So you get our own money to pay you. And so it keeps going over and over again.
It's a point that it's impossible or difficult to detect it at the early stage. Is that the point?
Okay, now where it can be detected is the financial flow. Because all banks are connected via, I know all banks are connected, and it becomes, I can't really stop you from transacting. You understand? It's your personal rights. But the question now is,
What you do with that information?
what you do with the information. And the Securities and Exchange Commission cannot just wake up and start hounding a customer of a bank or a firm. Yes, I know, okay, like I run like my firm is limited liability. I'm into financial consulting, advisory services. But when I want to take money from the public for you to invest, I'm supposed to register my fund with Securities and Exchange Commission. It has a regulatory process. I also need a SCOMO.
Before you go further on, these schemes, are they also registered with the SEC?
No.
So why wouldn't the SEC at that point take action? They are not registered,
they are not
with them and
spirits.
they're engaged.
You know, they are not spirits. You see, I have an account, Rugon Capital Limited. It's there. It's registered. There's not much traffic. Any money can go in there, but it doesn't mean the SEC might not have. They're not spirits to know. Okay, what is this guy doing? The question is, it's the volume. When the volume reaches a threshold, and there must be a complaint, either a form of complaint from a customer or a bank raising alarm that, look, this firm is doing an illegitimate business. It becomes a problem. It is potent if the banks raise the alarm. Then okay, they can like beam a searchlight. It can also be a Ponzi scheme, even if the firm registers this firm activities with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Due to malpractices, they can also bolt away with people's funds. So there's also monitoring by Securities and Exchange Commission on the part of these firms into asset management and picking of funds from customers. So whether it is registered or not registered, it can still turn out to be a Ponzi scheme.
Okay. The other part of it is the fact that, like I said, it wasn't only the foreign-based Ponzi schemes that defrauded Nigerians. We have locals also. You mentioned one already, plus the one that you did not mention that we know. Individuals were attached to these schemes.
Yeah.
But we do not get to hear about prosecutions. In fact, we do not get to hear about anything refund, even if they are not prosecuted, but the funds returned to the owners. It doesn't happen.
Okay. Number one, when you go into a business, it's either you earn a profit or you earn a loss. So if the company goes bust, your money goes bust. That's the sad aspect. The duty lies with you, the investor, to do your diligence and ensure that the firm you are investing in is well registered, has its processes well clearly spelled out. Now, even when it goes bad, most times the funds in the accounts of the company is not adequate to meet all the total deposits.
Yes.
It's just like a bank that goes bust. And so once it is illegal, it's illegal. The company, maybe the authorities, the worst they do is they clamp down. So it's bad. I must admit, like defaulters or people into such schemes have not been really thrown into jail. In civilized countries, they spend the rest of their lives in jail. None has been done in this part of the country, and it's a bad precedent. And that's where the Security and Exchange Commission has to take it up to serve as a deterrent and a lesson to subsequent people that want to engage in it. Our prosecution, the legal process is a very lengthy thing in this country, and many times people in such acts get away with it by acceding to a plea bargain and paying a lot of, maybe pay their way out, and they go off hook. That's the sad aspect. And so I think it behoves on the Securities and Exchange Commission to cite, to make an example of a Nigerian or a defaulter in such shoddy businesses in this country.
Let's be
Still
Okay,
on the SEC. I don't know if it is that agency as the regulatory body or
No,
any other
it's the Securities and Exchange Commission.
any other agency.
No, it's the Securities and Exchange Commission. Where the EFCC comes in is many times such firms do not have the license. They call it a SCOMO. It's a certificate authorizing you to, when you have your SCOMO, heavy flows of funds like that, all banks have it. You're supposed to register. You're supposed to report the source of that funds, who is behind that funds, the name, phone number, address. Then even the firms themselves, your customer base, you're supposed to have a data, name, phone number, address verification, your KYC, everything has to be in place of such persons, the BVN tool. So it's a whole lot, but many of these firms, they don't have such.
Now, I don't know what is obtained elsewhere, but is it not the right thing for the funds of investors to be protected by and large? Okay.
Number one, when somebody is telling you he's giving you 50%, clearly it's a very risky business. There's no guarantee. The problem is you cannot manage the greed of an individual. That's the sad aspect. Everybody does not want to work, but just want to earn money as easy like that. Because, what kind of business, I pick a fund, even if it's 1 million naira, and you tell me to return 300,000 naira in 1 month as your interest? How? If you look at, I have to turn that money around, pay salaries, pay overheads, do my cost of business. If I'm to earn 300,000 naira, if I'm to pay you 300,000 naira, I should make close to 600,000 naira on it. How possible is that? So that at least the 600,000 naira, I can pay you off the 300,000, then take 300,000 naira, pay 1 or 2 overheads, and still have a profit of, even if it's 100,000 naira. So technically, I'm really working for you. That's the way you should look at it. So, but when you tell people 10-15% is fair, but not 30%, 50%. Money lending, you don't print money. So the best thing if you look at is the returns on investment. You should be looking at over 1 year. That's the best time. Where, okay, I can take 10%, 15% in a year, which makes more sense. I don't want to go into inflation rates, which also is a problem, because
Okay, don't worry, finish yours.
because with inflation rates which has been managed officially,
But it's not reflected.
has been administratively managed from 33% to 24%, right? I think it just climbed down to 24%. So if I'm making 15%, you're giving me 15% per annum, and inflation rate is 24%. You know, inflation rate is a form of tax. I'm still making a loss of 8% on my investments.
So would you rather attribute the rise of Ponzi schemes to greed or the economic situation?
There's a greed aspect of it and the economic aspect of it. These are two, you can't separate the two. When in periods of economic depression, unemployment, stagflation, depression entirely, people tend to fall into such schemes. You know, the exchange rate naira to the dollar was 400 naira May 29 to 2023.
28. May 28.
No, so from you can see within a space of 1 year, from 400 naira to 1,001, and we're now 1,005. That's 2 years. So you could see it has pushed people's investments down the line. Cost of items has really gone up. Your salary has not so you could see there's also that pressure to make ends meet, which never ever meets. So people are forced into it.
Now, given the antecedents, do you think that when there is another Ponzi schemes, as much Nigerians will also fall victims?
Well, I don't want to be like an apostle of doom. I'm serious, because sometimes there are places I hang out and you just hear people talk about crypto. I just laugh. A lady came to me and asked me, marketing crypto. She was just talking about, so I just asked her, what's the use case of what you're selling? She said, huh? Because I just used that technical word, use case. She didn't really understand. I just marked her completely bad. Yes. So I said, okay, what problem is this of? And she said it's for gaming, it's for football, and
How?
I just looked at her. I said, okay, wow. A lot of Nigerians are into it, and I said, whoa. And there's so many crypto tokens like that. So many meme tokens, no use case, nothing. They just pump and dump. Before you know it, it goes down. My brother and I were into digital assets, consulting digital assets entirely. So some guys met him in Lagos, and they wanted to launch their own crypto coin. And he talked to me about it. I said, okay. I told the guy, him, oh yeah, send me it has the white paper. So when I read the white paper, there was nothing in it. There was no problem it was solving. I was asking questions. And so when my brother was asking them, they were like, hey, this guy, he just took them on. They're like, so my brother now told them, like, if you meet my brother, you will not even. So there was nothing in it. There was nothing. I don't know if I can mention the name. There's another one by a Nigerian here, very popular. And like, somebody asked me, what was about this? I said, my brother, leave that thing. It's a shit coin. When I say shit coin, nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. No. So there must be And so many Nigerians are into cryptos. They don't know what it's all about. They're yet to read what it's all about. You're supposed to read because we don't read. That's the problem. The one I'm into, I've read now thousands of documents around it. Because I'm into finance, it's more of payment with banks, central banks of Europe, America, South Asia, IMF, World Bank, America, the G7, G20, they're all into it. And so that's why I speak confidently about it. Somebody made inquiries. I went to Abuja, a top official somewhere, and he told me this is what he wants to invest in crypto. So I told him, this is what we're into. This is what we know. This is it. I gave him all the materials. He mentioned the popular one. He mentioned the popular one.
Is crypto also, do we have that kind of frauding?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's why
I remember that you said that a bigger bubble is to be expected.
Exactly.
Can you explain that part where you said that a bigger bubble is expected in cryptocurrency?
That's what I said.
Trading.
I told you there are over 17,000 crypto coins. If you check on Google, about 10,000 are active. Out of that 10,000, you only have very few, less than 1%, that solves a problem.
And for it to be viable, it has to solve
a problem. And so if you recall the dot-com era in the 90s, when internet came on board, if you've read dot-com era, there were so many dot-coms that popped up. When the bubble popped, many of them went into extinction. Currently, you only have like 2 or 3. Yahoo, Facebook, very few of them. So it's the same thing that is going to happen. Sorry, I'm saying this so that for the audience to be very wary. So it's the same thing that is going to happen in that sector, in the crypto sector.
Those that do not have a problem they are solving will be phased out.
That is.
And then investors will lose again. So why does the regulatory body know about this and choose to do
what happens is not really regulator. Many a times, competition will make so many of them go into extinction. That's one problem. Because by the time when push comes to shove, where we need to choose the market will determine which coin will survive. So you will now see a lot of funds flowing from even the bad ones to the good ones. And so the ones without substance will go into extinction. It's just like you used to use Nokia before, right? Do you use Nokia today?
Not doing anybody that.
Or it's just like, when we were growing up, we were using VHS. It was Betamax video. From Betamax to VHS, the VHS is no more. So you will see technology coming out to make so many of these will go into extinction. So that's one aspect. You also have the idea of the bubble popping up in all of them, and they just go into extinction. Because the markets, people with funds will dump them for the right coins that has a solution and problem to solve.
What lessons should Nigerians learn from the fallout of previous Ponzi schemes and even CBEX? I wish we have a absolute explanation of what went wrong with CBEX. But what lessons can we learn in all of this?
Number one, read, and read. Then consult a financial analyst. Consult somebody knowledgeable in it. Don't assume. I think everybody is secretive about his money. Very, very secretive. And sometimes I laugh. Even people that are well-to-do, very influential, wealthy, many of them hardly consult. Because they say, sometimes it's more or less like an insult. If you were brilliant, why are you not rich? But you know, it doesn't work out that way. Yes,
And
you have the
there's
funds.
probability that very rich people were also involved in
Very
this.
well.
Otherwise, how did the investment amount to trillion naira?
I said very, very well. So these are the issues. So if you're taking such funds like that, ask the right questions. People in that sector or people that know a lot, ask the right questions. Let me get back. The client in Abuja told me he wanted to invest in the popular one, you know, Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was about $50,000 a coin. I told the guy, honestly, I said, I don't touch Bitcoin, personally. So I said, yes. So I gave him my reasons. It's very popular everywhere. Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. But sorry, Bitcoin is the biggest distraction currently. Because Bitcoin is not the real deal. I'm saying it for your viewers to listen to it clearly. Bitcoin is not the real deal. There's a technology out there that will surpass it and exceed it. Yes. So, anybody that wishes to invest in Bitcoin,
Good luck.
The chairman of EFCC promised to an extent to recover the money that was lost from CBEX. Do you see the chances of that happening?
well, I wish them good luck. That's all I'll say. It's what do you expect him to say? It's more or less like a political statement.
Let's begin to look at, I don't know about recovery, but this issue of proliferation of Ponzi schemes, I don't know if it can be solved.
Like I said, it happens. It's a cycle. It comes around, and so you recall 2015 when President Buhari took over, the country went into depression. Ponzi schemes came up. That was the MMM, right? So now we're almost in a reset where the economy is not doing bad. It will pop up amidst an emerging new market about blockchain. Like there are always bad actors. So it's normal. Whatever about Ponzi schemes coming up and hovering around crypto, it's a normal thing. Everybody just has to be vigilant, ask the right questions, read and enlighten yourself further. Consult an advisor.
You're saying that because people are not well informed,
Exactly.
that's why they fall prey to
They fall
this.
prey to it.
How much public awareness can help?
There's just like you're doing now, and your show, you send it to the airways for people to listen to it. But the problem is the greed aspect of every individual. You can't address it. Once that is addressed, we're more or less like you've solved 50% halfway. Then sometimes most people just put in money, they don't really know the business around it. That's what I saw somebody marketing derivatives in Nigeria. I'm like, hey, derivatives? Wow. Do Nigerians know anything about derivatives? That's not a financial product. Okay. There's no fraud in it, but very risky. You have to be well informed in it. Yes. So it's more about information, what actually you're investing in. You also have derivatives like exchange traded funds, options. There are so many. So you just have to be very, very informed or know what you're actually going into.
I am still concerned that the SEC is not doing enough. In fact, everyone can just start off something and begin to defraud Nigerians.
If I pay money into your accounts, do you blame SEC?
Right.
The SEC is not a spirit. how do you expect SEC with Lagos offices in Lagos and Abuja to monitor a transaction, let's say in Kwara? How? Or just the one in Enugu here, the Let's Partner with You, which blew up. No, we need to be, yes, in as much as we're trying to like push responsibility to the SEC, we need to look at it on the other side. Why the onus is on the public. Buyers beware. It's a clause. Funny enough, every business out there is always there's always a caveat. Buyers beware. The onus is on you to do your diligence. You also have Ponzi schemes even in real estate. You also have Ponzi schemes even in stock markets. You have Ponzi schemes, all kinds of businesses. So crypto is just one of them. So it all depends on which part of the economy, which sector, which part of the economy it's happening.
Are you saying that there all of the things that have been, at least from MMM up until now? I remember one that crashed. It was in bank form in Enugu. Around that time, I think it was in 2017.
That's Let's Partner with You.
That's no Let's Partner with You.
Okay, there was another one again.
It was a bank.
Okay, it's like, okay, you can even have in banks, microfinance banks, you don't have Ponzi schemes. Okay, so even banks too. If you read the history of Ponzi schemes, banks were into it until regulations came up to close the gap, tighten the noose, more regulations and regulations to protect.
What is happening with us now in terms of this Ponzi scheme? Can't it, help or inform future financial regulations?
Like the area of, I think I mentioned it before, the area of crypto coins. I told you it's an emerging sector where the Securities and Exchange Commission are here to like be on top or ahead of it. It's an emerging sector where they're here to have the right staffing and the tools to monitor, track what's going on in that sector and manage it properly. Yes, I know they came out with a law, the SEC just passed a law supporting it. Most likely, they've gotten the right staff and the right equipment and tools to monitor it. But then you still have bad actors. And so it's from when the bad actors are being caught, they will see their modus operandi operations, then they can now bring out more policies and more stringent measures to manage it. So it's a circle that pops up once in a while. The problem is the greed of individuals. Once you can't manage, because you can't manage the greed of individuals, people will always fall prey. More especially when the climate where you have downturn of the economy influences it.
Now, you've been in the financial sector for decades. I know that we're faced with inflation, with economic downturn, and there's serious recession. It doesn't matter what is happening around, what we feel is what we know.
Yeah.
What's your outlook for the investment landscape in Nigeria?
Okay. So some people, they see it as half full. Some will see it as half empty. Some will see chaos and want to japa, which is the normal slangs. But you see a lot of Nigerians, you see people that like the opportunities are bright. Very, very bright. If only we persevere. I've said it somewhere in one other studio. I was in my early 1985, just entered secondary school, where the SAP was just introduced. Structural adjustment program. Andrew Enebeli was checking out. I don't know if you listened to that. I don't know if you were around then. And so a lot of Nigerians left. But that era presented an opportunity for financial sector to grow, because from 1988 some banks came up.
It was economic intervention that worked. Did it work?
Well, okay, the SAP, yes, it has a good side and a bad side. But then the issue was the IMF really recommended that the government takes its hands off the banking system. Because all the banks at that time were government owned. So the government had to bring out regulations to ensure private sectors go into banks, go into setting up of banks. And banks came up then. Funny enough, you had the bad banks then and the Ponzi banks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because there was no regulation.
There was regulation, but like I told you, for every new sector, you have bad actors that comes into it. And so you had the likes of Diamond Bank, FCMB, not not FCMB, they had the name then.
People's Bank.
Diamond Bank, Ulster Trust Bank, FCMB then. No, Intercontinental, no. This was the first set, 1988. So they came up then. There were other banks. Citizens Bank was there then. I can't recall. But out of these three, is only FCMB is around. So in the 90s, the whole lot came up. Intercontinental, Zenith, GTB, all of them all came up. So it was a sector that thrived and grew. I also see a sector coming on board, or a new set of people emerging. It will be tough, but then if we persevere, a lot of people will ride on top of the storm and get to the seashore. Have you watched skating on water? So if you're on top of the skating board and there's a storm, you glide straight with ease. Except if you're under it, the water consumes you. So what I just tell Nigerians to do is put your head above the water. Don't let the storm swallow you.
That's a nice way. And that's Anitche Ndudim Rowland, an ex-banker, financial analyst, and the CEO of Rugon Capital Limited.
Thank you.
It's been a very resourceful contribution coming from you on our subject matter this evening on Signature Business. It was all about Ponzi scheme, the very scary Ponzi scheme. I don't know why anybody is comfortable
venturing to
giving anybody not to bank for them, but to trade with it, and anything can happen, and it's just happening now. Well, my heart goes out to all Nigerians whose funds are tied up in that scheme. I do hope that the EFCC can, meet up with its promises on that. Thank you for watching, and thank you for joining us in today.
Thank you very much.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.